still 50 people right now, so good. Let's get going. Good afternoon. My name is Terrence Keneally, and I am General Counsel for the Steamship Authority. We are here to conduct a public hearing pursuant to Section 15A of the Authorities Enabling Act concerning its proposed 2026 operating schedules. I would like to inform everyone that Sean Driscoll, the Authority's Communication Director, is making an audio and video recording of today's hearing. The hearing is conducted by the Authority today and is not a board meeting. Therefore, while Authority board members may be in attendance, they will not be deliberating on the proposed schedule changes today or otherwise responding to any testimony at this time. Today's recording of the hearing will also be available to all interested parties so that they can view it after the hearing is concluded. At this time, I'd like to introduce some of the members of the Authority's management staff who are also here today, whose responsibilities include our reservations and terminal operations. Robert Davis, General Manager, Mark Munson, Chief Operating Officer, and Allison Fletcher, Director of Shoreside Operations. The Authorities Enabling Act requires the Authority to post and advertise in newspapers with general circulation in Falmouth, Barnstable, Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, and New Bedford all of its proposed schedule changes at least 60 days prior to their effective date. Accordingly, in April, the Authority placed newspaper advertisements of its proposed 2026 operating schedules for the period from January 5th, 2026 through January 5th, 2027. The Authorities Enabling Act also provides that if the Authority receives a petition within 30 days of those advertisements, that it is signed by not less than 50 persons who are residents of any of those communities requesting a public hearing on the proposed scheduling change. The Authority shall conduct a public hearing within 14 days of receiving the petition. On May 15th, the Authority received the petition with respect to its proposed 2026 operating schedules between Woods Hole and Martha's Vineyard and Hyannis in Nantucket. It was submitted by 248 individuals who are predominantly residents of the town of Falmouth. And as a result, we are conducting today's hearing. We will review testimony regarding the Authority's proposed schedule to gain the benefit of the views of the parties affected. The Authority will also consider written testimony that is submitted regarding the proposed schedule changes. But we ask that written testimony be submitted as soon as possible after today's hearing to ensure that it is timely considered. Written testimony can be emailed to schedules@steamshipauthority.com. During this hearing, we will not be accepting comments or questions via Zoom's chat function, which has been turned off. If there are any additional comments or questions you wish to submit in writing, please email them. In their petition, the petition is subject to the Authority's proposed 2026 freight operating schedules between Woods Hole and Martha's Vineyard, as announced in the Authority's newspaper advertisement, as well as on our website. As advertised, the Authority's proposed 2026 freight operating schedules between Woods Hole and Martha's Vineyard would be essentially the same freight schedules that were approved for 2025, as well as the same freight operating schedules we ran in 2018, 2019, 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024. And also were approved for 2020, but our schedules were modified because of the coronavirus pandemic. For 2026, the Authority is proposing to operate a 5:30 freight trip from Vineyard Haven, with various vessels arriving in Woods Hole at approximately 6:15 a.m. For 2026, the Authority is also proposing to operate a 5:30 a.m. freight trip from Woods Hole only during its late spring and summer operating schedules, with the motor vessel Governor and/or the motor vessel Aquina from May 14th through October 22nd. The Authority is also proposing to continue to limit the size of the trucks that the Authority carries on its 5:30 a.m. freight trip from Woods Hole to trucks that are less than 40 feet in length, which it began doing in 2018, so that less noise is generated by the trucks that drive to the Authority's Woods Hole terminal in the early morning hours. After receiving and reviewing the oral and written testimony provided through this hearing process, staff will prepare one or more draft reports recommending either that the authority maintain portions of its 2026 schedules as originally proposed, or that it make modifications to those proposed schedules. Staff will also explain the reasons for the recommendations, summarize the oral testimony received, and attach all the written testimony received. When each draft report is prepared, it will be forwarded to the authority's board and port council members, and then posted on the authority's website. We will also email people to let them know the availability of the draft report on our website if they have provided us with their email addresses through their written testimony, or if they email us later asking to be notified. And again, all email requests should be sent to schedules@steamshipauthority.com. We will now call on members of the public who have joined the hearing via the Zoom conferencing application who indicate they want to give testimony. Because the petition objects generally to the authority's proposed 2026 freight operating schedules between Woods Hole and Martha's Vineyard, Nat Trumbull, who submitted the petition on behalf of the petitioner, should be the first person to testify today. Please note that this hearing is not an adjudicatory proceeding, therefore we will not be asking people to testify under oath, nor will we restrict comments to testimony that conforms to the rules of evidence observed by the boards. Finally, we ask that those who testify to keep in mind that we would like everyone who wants to give testimony today to have a fair opportunity to testify. And therefore, everyone should provide comments on the proposed schedules and not deviate from the purpose of this hearing. If in the event we don't receive comments, we encourage everyone to submit written testimony as soon as possible after the hearing by emailing the information to schedules@steamshipauthority.com. Mr. Trumbull, if you would like to testify first, please click the raise my hand icon on your Zoom screen or by pressing *9 on your telephone. There? Yeah. Okay, great. And I would ask if, I'd also ask anyone else who would like to testify to click on the raise my hand icon on your Zoom screen, or if you're joining us by telephone, to press *9 on your telephone. If you're not speaking, we ask that you please mute your microphone as a courtesy to those people who are speaking and those people who wish to clearly hear the speakers. Thank you. So with that, can you hear us, Nat?
Yes.
There he is. Hello, Nat. How are you?
Good afternoon, everyone. May I confirm I see 67 attendees, and then I'd like to ask which Steamship Authority board members may be on the call.
Oh, so we'll have to flip through there, I guess, Nat.
I believe Mr. Jeffrey's on there and Mr. Rainey's on there.
That's what I saw earlier, yes.
Okay. So it looks like we have Mr. Jeffrey and Mr. Rainey. And as our past practice, Nat, we'll be recording it and today's hearing and providing copies to the board for their review. And port council, yes, that's true.
Well, I'd like to make a brief statement. My name is Nat Trumbull, and I'm co-founder of Southeast Massachusetts Regional Transportation Smart Citizens Task Force. Section 15A hearings are the only opportunity citizens have to directly challenge the Steamship Authority. Residents of minority voting port communities like Falmouth, which has a mere 10% vote on the Steamship Authority board, are limited to 15A hearings in terms of communicating our concerns. On the topic of freight truck scheduling, those concerns continue to be dismissed by the Steamship Authority senior staff and board year after year. The basic purpose of hearings is to ensure that there are citizen checks on the unrestrained powers of the Steamship Authority. That purpose has vanished here. The proposed schedule for next year, 2026, symbolizes the relationship of the Steamship Authority to its port communities. The annual rejection of the concerns of those communities, including the ritual of the Steamship Authority's dismissal of community proposals, is disrespectful, defeats the legislative purpose behind 15A hearings, and violates the Steamship Authority's statutory obligation to operate in the best interests of the people of the Commonwealth. That's it for now. I'd like to speak later. I know there are attendees who need to speak at the beginning because they have to leave them.
Okay, now we'll circle back to you perhaps at the end, okay? So right now I see, to Nat's point, I think I see 71 participants right now. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people with their hand raised. Maybe that's lots of other folks raising their hand now. Okay, good. So let's go to Mr. Woodwell. You had your hand raised first, so if you could unmute yourself and.
It just takes a second.
Are you there, Mr. Woodwell? There he is. Can you hear us okay, Mr. Woodwell?
There we go. Yes, I got you.
Okay, great.
Very
You have
good.
the floor, sir. Yeah, thank you. Go ahead.
Great. Thank you. I was looking over my comments from last year as reported by the Steamship Authority, and I realized that we haven't made much progress here. I thought I might just touch on those same issues as they are equally relevant this year. I said that the truck can drop off the trailer on the barge. Another truck and driver would meet the other side to drive off. This is from New Bedford. This would allow drivers to pick up and drop off trailers in the same trip. I raised a question of the credibility of the Steamship Authority and referenced the 2001 Seabulk service between, this is full service, ferry service between New Bedford and Martha's Vineyard, and the authority did not allow that to run. I noted that a document written by former General Counsel Steve Sayers mentioned that the Steamship Authority representatives voted to, quote, adopt a goal to reduce freight traffic levels through the ports of Hyannis and Woods Hole to the 1997 levels as soon as practicable, but no later than May 2000 for the Woods Hole Martha's Vineyard run. And I pointed out that the authority has done exactly the opposite and shut down all alternatives for the transportation of freight. Let me update that a little bit because after all, that miscommunication between UPS and Steamship Authority that resulted in UPS not having reservations on the run to Nantucket catalyzed or opened the opportunity for a private shipper to take freight to Nantucket from New Bedford, which is twice the distance from New Bedford to Hyannis, and that made it embarrassingly clear to the Steamship Authority that it was cost effective to run freight between Martha's Vineyard and New Bedford. This is in contrast to what the Steamship Authority has steadfastly maintained. I'm going to mention you, Mr. Davis, in particular, that it's not economic to run freight between Martha's Vineyard and the Steamship Authority. Perhaps it isn't economic for the Steamship Authority to do so, but the evidence concerning private shippers powerfully says that it is economical to do so. And the reason it hasn't happened is that the Steamship Authority has said it will not allow it. This raises a larger question about a more functional transportation system for the 21st century. The Steamship Authority considers it progress to reproduce its 1960s era transportation system, its monopoly system, its legal monopoly. One way to improve a transportation system would be to put a fleet of cars seasonally on Martha's Vineyard. That is, more cars during the summer than during the winter, or the decision as to how many might be left up to the islanders themselves. And then you just have to ship people back and forth, and that would ease up make all sorts of space available for freight and reduce the use of cars overall. We could reduce, if we put one car on the vineyard in the summer, we could and left it there and just have the people go back and forth, that would eliminate 7 out of 8 round trips. That would be a major step forward. Now, the Steamship Authority isn't calling for that. On the contrast, it stopped an initiative, a private initiative to do that. Packer was shipping cars seasonally to the vineyard for just that purpose. Steamship Authority used its legal authority to stop that innovation. I asked Mr. Sayers, why did you not allow that? And the answer is, quote, he didn't ask us, unquote. Yeah, well, there are extended conversations in advance of that legal action to stop this advancement in the transportation system by the Steamship Authority. And so I maintain that it is indeed the Steamship Authority that is preventing the development of a 21st century transportation system for the islands. Okay, so how do we get from here to there? The answer is that we have to eliminate the monopoly for the Steamship Authority. That's the first, foremost step to a more functional 21st century, more appropriate, more efficient, less energy consumptive, less congested transportation system. And it is to eliminate the legal authority for the Steamship Authority to forbid alternatives that are not itself. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wardwell. Okay, so we have, Selectman Brown from Town of Falmouth, yeah. I believe that's him.
Looks in.
And we're up to, my mic, it looks like it's 75, 76 participants in the hearing.
They can see that number. So.
Okay, good. Mr. Brown, are you there, sir?
I am. I don't know if you can see me yet.
You're a bit blurred. You're a bit blurred there, but we can hear you fine though.
All right. Well, I guess I don't know what's going on with the computer screen, but so here I am again. I come every year. I know several years ago, the select board sent you folks a letter of comment that we'd like you to stop the 530 boat. It's very disruptive to our neighbors in Woods Hole and along the route of Palmer Avenue. And I know that I come every year to remind you, we're going to be taking this up again on Monday to refresh the letter with the new board, perhaps modify it with potentially some additional comments. I just find it to be a shame that we just keep doing this same thing year after year. I don't see any kind of signs of progress. Can you, I guess you've already said you're not going to respond here today, but I wonder if there's any progress at all developing the port in New Bedford and coming to some agreement with the New Bedford Port Authority. We spoke to them on your behalf in your absence, and they seemed willing to provide locations and to offer suggestions and accommodations. But as far as I know, there's been no outreach on your part. That seems a shame because we know that this 530 boat came on us unexpectedly years ago, and it hasn't gone away. And we only wonder when we see the exponential growth in trucking, when is the next boat going to come? Is it going to be 430 and then 330 and then 24/7? Without any alternate plans, the growth that continues is eventually going to continue to cause more problems for the people in the village of Woods Hole and along that corridor. I will say that in addition to the freight truck at 530, there's more bigger problems that are happening, and some of it's related to the construction, but also I think it's just related to the growth. The backups on the Woods Hole Road are creating a real fire and public safety hazard when we can't even get trucks into the neighborhood to respond. And also there were reports and videos of Steamship Authority buses going around parked vehicles into the oncoming lane of traffic on Cowdrey Road. I'm sure you've heard these reports. So I'm just appealing to you again to take the initiative, work with the New Bedford Port Authority, develop this additional port. We'll support you. If it needs to be subsidized, I'm sure the town of Falmouth would be happy to sign on to a letter. I mean, I can't speak for the board, but all indications are that you would have our support as far as I can tell. So I won't talk all day, but I just wanted to remind you that we're still opposed to this, and we're going to be sending you a new letter probably within the next couple of weeks. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. So looking at the next person we have, Suzanne Kupler. Again, Ms. Kupler, just unmute yourself and we'll be bringing you over. Ms. Kupler, can you hear us? And your sound is muted. If you can
There
hear
we
us.
go. We're on. Okay,
Okay, great.
okay, thanks for the
Good.
hearing.
Yeah.
I'd like to read what I said last year for the same reasons that we need to make more progress communicating with Woods Hole and all port communities. So I stated last year that the steamship authorities, management and staff did not understand the seriousness of sleep deprivation, whether short or long term. The authority needs to respect this basic life condition and recognize that the 5:30 schedule needs to be changed or removed to reestablish normal sleep hours for the affected communities. There are hundreds of people along the corridor and in the village who are affected. The smaller trucks have not reduced the sleep deprivation issue, and early incoming trucks add to the sleep disruption year round. Ms. Kupler also said that the Woods Hole cannot and should not be expected to solve all the complexities of the vineyard's freight needs and the timing requests of the Steamship Authority. I also said last year that Woods Hole will never be designated as an industrial port. She said that all parties that use the Woods Hole Road need to come to terms with the fact that people live here, and pushing for an earlier trip actively is causing harm to the residents. Ms. Kupler said that the new boats can carry more freight. She said that a later arrival time on the vineyard is the right thing to do out of respect and decency for the landside communities. And the lifeline to the vineyard is not possible without the landside port. She said that the petitions started in 2018 over the 5:30 a.m. trip, and the Steamship Authority hasn't been listening to the community. And I'm adding right now, 200, as you know, 48 people signed the petition for this meeting. The petition at PI that I ran for about 2 years had over 1,000 signatures, essentially supporting the integrity of the Woods Hole Village. Solutions are out there, as already been mentioned this afternoon, including the new transport boats that have greater capacity. Please get all the parties together so that we can talk and work things out for a more equitable situation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's see, we have Kristen Alexander up next. Ms. Alexander, are you there?
Hi, can you hear me?
Oh, there you are. Yeah, we can, you're a little fuzzy, but we can hear you fine.
Okay, great. So I just want to add to the conversation that one of the problems is the boat leaving Martha's Vineyard and coming into the port in Woods Hole. I originally lived down in Woods Hole about 2018. I was lucky enough to leave and come up to Falmouth, which I'm almost a mile away from the main road. And that boat will wake me up with some of these septic trucks and these large trucks coming off the island. It's not necessary for them to come through a small village and through the town of Falmouth, all the way up Palmer Avenue. It's affecting a lot of people, not just people along the corridor, but actually almost a mile away with the noise. I also think that it's really unfair that a petition was sent to the vineyarders when you haven't sent a petition around to, a survey around to the people in Falmouth and Woods Hole. So you've asked people who are on the vineyard how the 5:30 a.m. run affects their businesses, but you haven't asked us, the business owners in Falmouth and Woods Hole, how this 5:30 a.m. run affects us. So that's quite unfair. And it just speaks to the fact that you're just going to do whatever you want to do to get the boats running. And I just am against that, and we'll keep trying to fight for a New Bedford port. And I hope some point in time, the Steamship Authority will listen to the residents in Falmouth and Woods Hole. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alexander. Do we have an action on?
Beth O'Connor, Ms. O'Connor.
Yep, Ms. O'Connor is next, followed by Mr. Gore. Looks like John Gore.
Yes.
Then Ms. O'Connor over. Ms. O'Connor, can you hear us okay? I see that you're still muted there.
Unmute you and going on video. Hello, hello.
Okay.
Hi. First of all, my name is Beth O'Connor and I live on the vineyard year round. I just kind of want to start by saying that I find it rather appalling that people can read their statements, same statement year after year after year, with no progress and no recognition of the problem. So anyway, I'm starting out by saying that I'm on the other side of the Sound. I live year round on the vineyard. First of all, I believe there's a lot of confusion about the ask. And I also believe small steps would go a long way improving our relationship with our neighbors on the other side of the Sound. We rely on each other and we need each other. And right now, we are not listening. And when I say we, I mean the collective we. I mean everybody on the board, I mean everybody in management, and I mean both sides of the pond. But I'd like to start with a quick history lesson. In 2011, when the 5:30 a.m. ferry was added, that Martha's Vineyard rep at the time, Mark Hanover, is on record as stating there should not be any excessive noise in either Woods Hole or Vineyard Haven, observing that if the authorities' operations begin to cause problems at that time of the morning, the early trips may be discontinued. That was in 2011, and that's on the record. Our neighbors have complained loudly and have undertaken studies to support the position of excessive noise, and we are all ignoring them. Perhaps there's a compromise, and I think the speaker before me just touched on this. When we dug into it a little bit, we found that one of the biggest complaints was, to our surprise, the 5:30 outbound from Martha's Vineyard to Woods Hole. These year-round boats often contain large empty trucks that create an inordinate amount of noise as they travel up Woods Hole Road. Is everyone aware that there are also boats at 6, 6:30, 7, 8:15, 8:35? There's plenty of choices besides this 5:30. The inbound 5:30, when I say inbound, I mean Woods Hole to Martha's Vineyard, is limited only to the summer months, as you guys discussed at the beginning. And also it's limited to trucks under 40 feet. I propose that a small step would be for us to enforce those same limitations on the outbound side. So the proposal on the table very clearly, and I would like an answer to this, is can we have the same limitations of the number of months and the size of the truck on the outbound Martha's Vineyard to Woods Hole? And again, I really would like an answer in writing on that topic. I also want to go on record as saying that the survey that the prior person was mentioned as well, last year was undertaken by Jim Malkin, our Martha's Vineyard rep, as to the Martha's Vineyard reliance on the 5:30 ferry was at best poorly implemented and at worst a sham. If you read through the list of respondents, and we have read through the entire list several times, a significant portion of those people do not even have trucks and or do not rely on freight. If a survey is to be undertaken, it needs to be unbiased and written in such a way as to solicit honest, informative data. The results of any survey needs to be balanced with the disruption we are causing our neighbors. And again, I really cannot stress enough that there are plenty of people on the vineyard who think we all need to work together a little better. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. O'Connor. Mr. Gore, you have the floor next, sir. And then we have, Mary, my glasses are failing me, Mary, Muskacha. Sorry, I butchered your last name, but anyway, you're up next, Mary.
Okay,
John, you have the floor.
thank you. Yeah, I'm John Gore. I have a house that's halfway between Nobska Road and Church Street. So we are right on Woods Hole Road. We're at just past the curve as you come into town. That's where the big trucks start to go through the gears and put on the brakes. And it is extremely noisy. My house is literally 20 feet off the road. It's from 1923, before those trucks were there. And the noise is a huge problem for us to actually enjoy the use of our front bedroom in particular. I want to clarify something about this idea that it's a 5:30 boat. The trucks come at 4 o'clock. They come at 4 o'clock and they sit down in the parking lot. They get loaded about 5 o'clock and the boat leaves at 5:30. So when we talk about a 5:30 boat, we're really talking about trucks coming in just after 4 o'clock in the morning, which is kind of an outrageous time. Even the worst sleeper is probably asleep trying to sleep at that time. The survey that I saw the other day about the need for these deliveries on Martha's Vineyard, I agree with the last speaker. It was a complete farce. I would ask the question, how is it that Nantucket manages to have its businesses and its restaurants all well stocked and functioning when their earliest boat is nothing like 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the morning? So most of those arguments should have been, the question should have been, would it really make a difference if you had to wait 30 more minutes at 6 o'clock in the morning for your precious deliveries? I agree with the earlier speaker who talks about sleep deprivation. As I said, we are unable to use a part of our house because of this noise. And I thank you for wasting my time, because I just have the feeling you're not going to do anything about this, because this has been known for years and the level of inaction is really quite annoying. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gore. Hey, Mary, we're bringing you over, and then Ms. Laster is on deck here. Mary, are you there? We see that you're muted.
Okay, I'm trying here to get.
Oh, yes, we can hear you good. We can hear you well now.
All right, well, hopefully the video will come on, or the audio.
Okay.
I first want to specifically thank Beth O'Connor, because she took some of my points, as did the last speaker. That survey that John Malcolm conducted in April 24, beyond being a sham, it was very unfair, because it used the word, and I suggest everybody grab their Webster's dictionary, it used the word need. There is a big difference between convenience and need. There is no need for a 5:30 delivery. If those businesses in the vineyard need things on their shelves, they can get it there the night before on one of the later trucks and load their shelves at night. The need for 5:30 does not exist. Whereas the convenience for them, which makes it nice, probably is there. And John Malcolm's comment that it was to get rid of the traffic or to get these trucks for the delivery purposes before the daily traffic occurred on the vineyard totally ignores the effect on the outbound side or on the Woods Hole side of the effect of the traffic. And you've heard the people talk about the sleep deprivation and those other issues. So I sincerely suggest that if you wish to consider yourself as doing something that is necessary, you get rid of the 5:30. It's simply not needed. It is a convenience to those people on the vineyard that want deliveries. I also agreed with Beth that it was to be temporary. And so the reasons that it exists, need, false. Temporary, no. Does it cause the disruption that it wasn't supposed to? Yes. So it's time to get rid of the 5:30, not to move it to 6. Then the trucks are going to be there at 5 in the morning. The freight needs to go to a freight port. That happens to be New Bedford. New Bedford is a freight port. Woods Hole is landlocked. There is no more room. You have put up a building that there wasn't room for. We have 3 to 4 docks, which cannot handle, nor can the road itself handle the traffic. So move the freight to New Bedford. The other thing I would say is that the traffic backup, for anybody who's been in Woods Hole over the last 2 months, the traffic backup has been horrific. It's been getting worse since 1956, but it has become a real problem by the time you hit 2000. And now when you're backing all the way up to the golf course on Woods Hole Road, that you can blame it on the construction, but it is not all construction. It is a large part, the timing and the scheduling and the volume that you're trying to shove through a space that cannot handle it. So I think, again, there has got to be a real recognition by this board, by this management, and I know Mr. Davis is leaving, so whoever the new manager is, he or she needs to understand before they get here that they have got to deal with a scenario that is no longer acceptable. I think that the discussion around, and Nat said it at the beginning, Falmouth only has 10% of that vote on that board. That is, at this point, an abomination. Falmouth carries better than 80% of the traffic going to the island through our port. And that's to 2 communities, and we're only 1 community. So again, this is a type of thing that has really hit a breaking point. And I think if the Steamship Authority doesn't recognize, and its board does not recognize that they are hitting a breaking point, then they are breaching both their practical and their fiduciary responsibilities to the state of Massachusetts. So I say that because I think that while I agree with Beth, we need to have hands across the waters in the communities. I also believe that Woods Hole has become subservient to the Steamships Authority and to the Martha's Vineyard, not need, but convenience. And it's time to put a stop to it, one way or the other. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Again, I'm sorry, I mispronounced your last name. So, okay, moving on to Ms. Laster's up next. And then we have Ms. Hammers, it looks like, after Ms. Laster.
Hello?
Hello, Ms. Laster, you have the floor, yes.
Yep,
We can hear you.
I'm here as on my behalf, not on behalf of Woods Hole Film Festival, despite the image you might see. So I'm not going to give you the benefit of my testimony because although I have a lot of great things to say, I know you don't want to hear them. So I'm just going to ask you questions, and I would like you to consider these all to be public records requests and issue responses accordingly, both in writing and completely and truthfully. All right, so I'm just going to go through them. Hope that you're listening. Hope that somebody actually cares, but I have no faith in that either. So number 1, who proposes the SSA? Who at the SSA actually puts together the annual schedule. I want the names of each person. And when does that happen, and what considerations and factors are put into place to determine the annual schedule? Which of the trips in the annual schedule is designated as a so-called lifeline trip, since that's the excuse given by everyone who says that the schedule cannot be changed, even though it was not always like this, as you know, before 2011. So clearly, there must be designated so-called lifeline trips. And I would also like to state for the record that although one of the prior people testified that the traffic for the 5:30 boat starts at 4 or 4:30 a.m., it's actually 3 to 3:30 a.m. If you want to sleep in Woods Hole, it's pretty hard, even in the winter. All right, so please provide the written criteria that determine the schedule that you use to determine the schedule between Woods Hole and Martha's Vineyard. Why do you have an agreement with the town of Barnstable limiting the number of trips from Barnstable to Nantucket? Why do you not have a similar agreement with the town of Falmouth? Why do you refuse to consider to listen to the select board, our representatives, the people in this community, when year after year we state the problem, we give you the adequate response that we think would be both useful to the steamship, would allow you to do your job, and would allow us to live peacefully, but there's no consideration ever given to that. I know this hearing is a perfunctory hearing and that you're required to do it only because of so-called Section 15A reasons. Will you ever agree to have an actual hearing that is conducted like a hearing, where there is testimony given under oath, where you actually talk to us instead of sitting there and looking at us like we're annoying? Okay, whose interests matter when determining the schedule, matter to the steamship, and how are they considered in the deliberative process if there is one? Please provide copies of all correspondence, both internal and external, regarding the annual schedule for both 25 this year and next year, 2026. We've already heard about the going back to the initial 5:30 boat when Mark Hanover objected and noted that it could be rolled back if it didn't work. Was that statement on behalf of the Steamship Authority ever taken into account? If not, why not? And because the community of Falmouth, the most impacted community in a negative way, has continually requested that it be changed, why do you refuse to actually consider it in any meaningful way? And then regarding the survey, the so-called Jim Malkin survey from 2024 that he coordinated with the Edgartown Board of Trade to gin up support for maintaining the 5:30 boat, was that survey his idea? Who gave him that survey? And who from the steamship coordinated that survey with Jim Malkin? What was the purpose of that survey? And do you at the steamship then consider the results of that survey to be to carry more weight than the thousands of people who are negatively impacted by your schedule? And then finally, you know, on the terminal issue, which is such a disaster, it's unbelievable. You know, there's complete obvious lack of planning. There's no traffic consideration. It's a dangerous place for people to enter. It's dangerous for people from the vineyard getting off the boat. The steamship stole the land from the town of Falmouth for years. The DPW tried to get it back. When they were finally able to go down there and reclaim the town property, you acted as if you were being egregiously impacted. You went and then also on town property as well, in violation of the lease with the town, created additional parking spaces on the bike path, which I cannot imagine that the town will stand for. it just seems like you do everything possible to provoke a negative response with the town of Falmouth and particularly the village of Woods Hole. And I just wonder why that is. Where is this coming from? Is it a money issue? Is it just a hubris issue? Are we ever going to see a change? And, you know, we obviously will continue to push the legislative delegation to revamp the Enabling Act for the Steamship Authority since it clearly isn't working. But we may reconsider that if the steamship would actually participate in good faith and operate as an organization in the public interest. You are, you know, you were you're created by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, but you act like you're a private entity. You are not. You work for us and you will listen to us one way or the other. We hope that it will be a better relationship going forward with a new manager, but even that, I'm not sure I have much faith in, but I certainly hope you prove me wrong in all of this. I look forward to receiving the written responses from you that can be shared with my community.
Okay. Let's see who's next. Ms. Hammers is next. Everything?
Yeah. Present.
Ms. Hammers, can you hear us?
Okay, there we are. Hi,
There
sorry
you
about
are.
that.
It's okay.
I want to
You're
thank you for
full.
having this hearing. I'm listening. I'm not an expert on this, but I hear what people are saying and they're appalled and they're disgusted and they're tired. And I know you guys don't want to sit here and be attacked. The time for change is now. I mean, this is your legacy. How are you going to feel when one of these toxic chemical trucks wipes out and causes a fire and burns people or pollutes the water or kills the animals? How are you going to feel if one of these overloaded freight boats crashes into the French bakery that I work in every morning because it just can't put the brakes on anymore? How are you going to feel when all these beautiful scientists, young scientists, old scientists, beautiful little children of their families get hurt because of your inactivity, of your actions? You have the power to help this situation. And why aren't you doing it? There's so much noise and air and water pollution happening. The traffic backup, I live on Woods Hole Road, is insane. The trucks idling. I take the bike path every morning to go to the bakery and you can smell it. And the boats, the pollution from the boats. What about the bike path crossing at Green Gate? Somebody's going to get hurt there one of these days because one car isn't going to know to stop and there's going to be a big truck behind it and there's going to be a crash, and God forbid if it's a truck with toxic chemicals and fuel. This Woods Hole is a very precious village and we need to preserve it and protect it. It's just overload. It's excessive. The people in Martha's Vineyard care too. It's just greed, really, and unnecessary. And I don't know why you're not considering New Bedford, because especially with the old bridges that are falling apart, there's too much weight being put on them with all these trucks crossing. And pretty soon, if we do get the funding and they're going to start fixing the bridges, that's going to be a nightmare. All the more reason why you should be thinking seriously about New Bedford, and it would help to bring much more economy to their city. Or maybe even maybe not New Bedford. Maybe there's a place in Onset. I'm not sure. I'm not an expert, but maybe there's another place that would make more sense before the bridge. So I just really listening to everybody. You're not listening, and I know that you care, and I really hope that you make a change. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Hammers. You any more hands there, Sean?
Yeah. Being okay.
Let's see, Ms. Cody's next, and then Mr. Mr. Goldman, yeah. Ms. Cody, are you there?
Yep, I'm right here.
Okay, very good. You have the floor.
So I'd like the four of you to put your pens down for a second. Bob Davis, Mark, Allison, Terrence. You don't need to write, scribble little notes and not have human contact. I've been sitting here listening to these people talk to you. They've been talking to you year after year after year. I wonder, how must it feel for you to know that 71 people are on this call and do it year after year, and that you ignore their minor request to have one ferry stopped? The greed that you are going through right now is outrageous. You have taken advantage of the Enabling Act and what they've allowed you to do with your control of licensing and your ability to build buildings that are too big, your ability to not finish contracts with your employees. I just am shocked that you can sit there year after year and pretend like you're taking notes, like you care. I live on Martha's Vineyard full time. Falmouth is our lifeline. They are our port. They are the other half of this. Without them, we wouldn't exist. The fact that you wouldn't respond and give them one thing that they're asking for, which is to get rid of the 530 boat, and say to the Vineyarders, this is what we've decided because we need to take care of all of our ports and all of our constituents. And our convenience of getting a landscape tree or a special cheese on our shelves a little earlier is irrelevant when you imagine the life change that they've had to go through for so many years because of the growth on this island. It's the smallest, least thing you could do in your 2026 schedule. It's an easy lift. Think of the public relations lift you'd get. Think of the goodwill you'd give. I guess I'm appealing to your better nature to just think outside of the box, stop what you're doing, and do something different. Because I can't imagine your conscience feels good to think that this many people have lost complete faith in the Steamship Authority and the people who run it. So I really appreciate you listening, not writing and scribbling, making contact. And more Vineyarders feel this way than you can imagine. And you know that I'm one of the co-founders of the Citizens Action Group. We have 120 people, and we're not going to stop pressing and pushing for change. It's not a threat that we'll go. We don't want to threaten you that we're going to go open the Enabling Act. We just want you to act like the stewards that you were given the responsibility to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cody. Mr. Goldman is up next, and then Ms. Henneman is on deck.
Can you hear me?
We can, Mr. Goldman, you have the floor.
Okay, well, I am very empowered by what Ms. Cody just said, because I was going to say the same thing. Please put your pens down when you're talking to me. It's a respect thing. Because we all know at the beginning of this, it says it's recording it. And if you are doing your job, you can read it. You don't have to scribble. I would like to know what you are writing about. That can be written to me in a letter, because those notes are ancillary. As Miss Cody and Judy and Mary and Beth have all said, and we have been saying for decades, Who are you working for? Are you working for the public? Is Woods Hole not the public? An integral part of your public? If Goodwill is part of that job, this is something that you need to be dealing with, not shuffling off the side until November when Mr. Davis leaves. You know, if I ran my business this way, I would be out of business. I don't understand how you can dictate from afar with a sense of no largesse to the community that you occupy. It is astounding, disgusting, and frankly, it's more than outrageous. It kind of encapsulates the time we're in, which is filled with greed, self-interest, and a kind of mercurial or capriciousness that is just mean. How would you explain what you do to your grandchild? How would you explain your behavior of ignoring the public seat that you work from to your grandchild? What world are you providing for them when they are now teenagers wanting to go over to the vineyard? How have you worked on goodwill? All of these things are critical to moving forward. So I hope that you have a really great time reading the transcript, which should be a convenience, which is why this application does that. For all the Zooms that we all do, there are other ways of not using up somebody's time, but demonstrating that you really do listen and that you really do care. Because I have to tell you, for the past 10, whatever many years that I've been doing this with these other people, I have never really seen any kind of communication back. So I get on a Peter Pan bus and I'm going to Boston. Lo and behold, Steve Sayers is on that bus. That was the closest that I could ever come to an actual conversation about the same stuff. And this was a long time ago, as you probably can imagine. So like Judy, there's not a lot of faith here. And what really confounds me is if faith in a company or in an authority in this case is a positive route to success in the occupied community, why wouldn't you be taking that course? I just don't understand it. Don't you see that by ignoring us, that we will only continue this every year, getting a constituency that builds and to still be only asking for one thing, which Amy has very astutely pointed out. It's not, in my opinion, it's not just the 530 vote. It's this whole sense of malfeasance that you think you are entitled to by hubris to impact our traffic, our sense of comfort, the use of our homes, as John Gore most eloquently put out. I'm just hopeful that some sense of reason will get its way in there, because the only other sense that I get out of this is it's unreasonable and it is capricious, and we can't survive that way. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Goldman. Okay, Ms. Henneman is next, and then Dan Schombacher is on deck.
You can hear me
Good.
and now maybe even see me, although I am in Hyannis waiting for my husband to come out of a root canal.
Okay.
I
We
wasn't
can't hear
planning,
you,
I
we
wasn't,
can't see you.
you can't
We
hear
can hear
me.
you, Ms. Henderson. Yeah, we can hear you. Go right ahead.
You can hear me. That's fine. You don't need to
Yes,
see me.
yes,
You can hear me.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I wasn't planning on making any remarks because I knew that there were many, many people who had thought long and hard and prepared remarks. But I cannot stay silent. I am sorry. I am a resident of Martha's Vineyard. My family, myself, my husband, my 4 kids, my 9 grandkids have been part of the vineyard, my husband and I, since 1988. When in July, when you could, back in 1988, drive up to the ferry on a Friday night and get on without a reservation. After that, you needed a reservation. It has changed immensely. What bothers me the most, my husband and I love the vineyard. We are embarrassed. We are mortified that the vineyard is being used as an excuse for why you must totally disturb the town of Falmouth and village of Woods Hole in the morning. It is an indication of what we have seen out of steamship management, board and general manager and other managers for a long time, of believing that you can do whatever you want to do because the state back in 1960 gave you that power. And so you are going to thrust your shoulders around and continue showing the people of Falmouth, Woods Hole, and even the vineyard that you will do whatever you want to do. That is not right. I might ask, although I don't think you would respond, Mr. Davis, where your house is. I wonder how you would feel if your house, hopefully not a huge mansion, if your house
Losing her. You're breaking up a little bit, Margaret.
was a small
sorry.
house with trucks rumbling by at 5 in the morning. I wonder how you would feel with your kids or grandkids. Well, I will try to hurry here. It is not appropriate, and let me just say, the enabling act that you folks are using so harshly, you should not count on forever, because people are getting tired of you not working with the communities. There are so many innovative ways of handling these issues. So many. Just look around at other ferry systems. The fact that you are not even considering, yeah, you put a bid out to New Bedford, but no, somehow that didn't.
Margaret, I'm sorry, but you're kind of cutting in and out a little bit. At times you're very clear, and then other times it's difficult to hear you.
It is time for you all to wake up and to realize that you are public servants and that you serve thinking about the needs of all the port communities. And I'm sorry I didn't have anything written out, but you need to change, and you need to change now, because people are getting tired of your way of acting. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret.
Okay, sorry, because I'm who knows where with my connection. You need to change your
Okay.
ways.
I
You need to start thinking of.
I think we heard that, Margaret. Yep. We understood, we heard you. Okay, let's move on to Ms. Schonbacher. And then Mr. Johnston is on deck after Ms. Schonbacher.
Can you
Nan, are
hear me?
there?
Yes. Can
Yeah,
you
we
hear
can
me?
you, Nan. Yes, we can, Nan. Yep, please go right ahead.
I would just like to follow up on several other people's comments about the increasing congestion, largely caused by the trucks, but also the increasing number of visitors who want to go to the vineyard. I have a question, and I, like Judy, would very much appreciate a written response to this. The traffic backups started in April. They've been getting worse and worse. This last weekend, which was a holiday weekend and obviously included extra traffic, the backup went all the way to the golf course. People are sitting in their cars without turning off the engines because the line does creep forward, which increases all of the pollution we're having to deal with. And people who are waiting for the boat probably assume that this is what they have to do to get on the boat. People who live and work in Woods Hole don't have that kind of freedom to sit there and wait. People need to get to their jobs, and people need to be able to get into Woods Hole. I happen to live on Juniper Point, which has a single entry, the Crane Street Bridge. And totally aside from my own issues with the traffic backup, what if there's an emergency at sea and the Coast Guard is needed? The Coast Guard people don't live in Woods Hole. They live up at Otis and they have to come down. If the traffic is backed up past to the golf course, the Coast Guard can't get here to get on their boats to go do whatever it is they need to do. For the people like me who live on Juniper Point, we have no options. Even if we went by the back route and came up through the village, we would still get stuck in your traffic jam on the Crane Street Bridge. I think as a law-abiding, tax-paying citizen, I have the right to use my own house. But if I can't get there, that right is being infringed. What I would like an answer to is what you propose to do about the Crane Street Bridge. The most recent drawings I've seen from you indicate 3 lanes of traffic crossing the bridge and coming down to the steamship's lot. I know that you have constructed 3 kiosks for directing that traffic. You show 1 lane outgoing. That's 4 lanes of traffic for a 2-lane bridge. And I would like you to tell me specifically what you plan to do in order to have 3 lanes of traffic coming in and 1 lane going out. At the moment, if I leave my house at the wrong time, I can get run over by a bus using the left-hand lane because the P&V buses get out of the line of traffic. So do the Steamship Authority buses, and they come full bore across that bridge in the wrong lane. I've had to back off the bridge several times to avoid getting run down by the bus. I want to know that I can get to and from my house unimpeded. If I leave the house and come home and there's a traffic backup past the golf course, I have to sit in traffic for 45 minutes to get home. And I consider that a substantial infringement on my rights as a citizen. I am not going to thank you for your time because you're not listening. You don't care. You're just there because we signed a petition and you are required by law to hold the hearing, but you're not hearing. You're not really listening to anything anybody has said. And I've been part of this battle now for 8 or 9, I can't even remember how many years it's been since you first put your phony drawings out there for the public to vote on. We looked at those pictures, we voted, and then lo and behold, you came up with an entirely new plan that you had decided ahead of time you were going to use. We went through endless discussions with Bob Davis personally about the placement of the new terminal building. And after all of that, and after promises, Bob, I know you know that I'm telling the truth. Promises that the building was going to be moved to the side. You went ahead and put the building right where you always planned to put it in the first place. Last year at one of these stupid non-hearings, I pointed out that you had already seized the intersection of Luscombe and Railroad Ave, and that you were using it as an exit ramp for your new slip, which you also lied about when you told the town it was only going to be used for maintenance. And then as soon as it was completed, you started using it for regular ferry traffic. The town finally caught up with you about that intersection and reclaimed its property. And I believe that you have been inconvenienced by now having to send your trucks around the concrete barriers the town installed. And I am expecting at least one, if not more, of those barriers to get moved by the middle of the summer so that your traffic can exit more expeditiously. And I last year also pointed out that the Crane Street Bridge was a point of failure. And as I said, the most recent drawings I've seen indicate that you are still intending to have 3 lanes of traffic, which the bridge doesn't accommodate. I want to know what you're going to do about all of the cars that are coming and the trucks, and how you expect to get everybody to and from your property on the Crane Street Bridge, which is not your property, but you're using it as if it were. I really want an answer, and I want an honest answer so I can know what to anticipate. Your behavior is disgraceful. I can't say anything worse without getting blipped. I'm done.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Mr. Johnston's next with Mr. Morris on deck. We can see your name, Mr. Johnston. There you go. We can see you're unmuted. You just don't have, there's your video. Okay, go ahead, sir. You have the floor.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
As you said, my name is Bob Johnston, and I'm a resident of West Tisbury. And this meeting is provoking a lot of really interesting emotions for me. I wonder what they evoke, and this was mentioned by Amy and I think others, what they evoke for you year after year. Embarrassment, shame, upset, anger. But why not empathy or compassion or neighborly concern? Or here's the big one, problem solving. So I did graduate work 45 years ago in something then that was little known called creative problem solving. And I've spent the last 45 years earning a living at it. One mentor, Dr. Ruth Noller, you can look her up, created a formula for creativity. And it had the usual components like imagination and ability to problem solve, getting the right data. But she said absolutely the most important thing in any problem solving, but especially creative problem solving like this, is attitudes. Remarkable. And I reflect back over this meeting and the other meetings I've attended, and it's impossible for me to believe that Dr. Noller could be a participant on this call and say that there was any chance, not 1 in 100, that this problem would ever be solved. So some years ago, I went out to meet the 5:30 a.m. boat every morning for 5 straight mornings, and I videoed what the problem might be. I didn't see it, but I'm not in your business, so I figured there must be other perspectives that would point in the videos out to me who was coming in on those boats that needed to be there at 6:15 a.m. I didn't get a single positive response from anyone. They were shared with Jim Malkin. No luck there. So as I've mentioned, I've been prowling around in this field of problem solving for over 4 decades. And when collaborative problem solving is used to solve problems, this would not even be considered in that world a difficult problem to solve. So here's my suggestion. Create a student challenge for Woods Hole, Falmouth, and Vineyard High School students to collaborate to come up with an implementable solution. Then implement it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. So we have Mr. Morris. And then Mary is back on the list. Maybe we'll take,
Karen and Joy.
maybe we'll take Karen and Joy before Mary gets a second bite. So I'll make sure we get everyone. Mr. Morris, are you there, sir? Yeah, you're showing that your sound is muted, sir.
Okay, are you getting me?
Now we hear you. That's fine. Go ahead, Mr. Morris.
Okay. Been a lot of very bright people speaking today. I think the breakthrough is that the Vineyarders are seeing the problem as it is. But I'd like to simply state it. And we're being asked to balance the health and welfare of people in Falmouth against some profitability at some restaurants and shops on the Vineyard. Pure and simple. The survey that Jim Malkin presented, it spoke to that issue. If you look at it, the first 4 replies, 4 or 5 replies, if I can bring it up, are we need more car reservations for Islanders. That's a reply from the second guy, okay? The third guy who replies, these are the only written answers. I don't really care either way. The third guy is doesn't affect our business. The next guy says, we need to heed the concerns of our friends and neighbors in Woods Hole. Let there be an early boat from New Bedford. Okay, now the other replies, I think, especially the Vineyard people have called them bogus replies, that sort of thing. There are people who in the restaurant business, and they say that Dion's is one of them. He needs his goods early in the morning. He doesn't open until 3 in the afternoon. What restaurant? I worked in a lot of restaurants when I was in college. What restaurant that opens at 3 in the afternoon starts making stuff at 8 o'clock in the morning? And there are more. The Ritz Cafe, same thing. Don't open till 1 o'clock. So I think that, you know, in avoiding the real question here is, are you going to put paramount over the health and welfare of the people in Falmouth, the profitability of some restaurants and shops in the Vineyard? I don't want to make that decision, but somehow you guys have to. And I really want to thank all the people in the Vineyard. This is catching up to us and catching up to you. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Morris.
Can I do some Karen?
So we're gonna skip Mary and then allow Karen and Joy to go next. And then we'll come back to you, Mary. Did we lose her?
No, there I am. Hello?
Oh, there you are. Okay.
Yeah,
Karen.
I'm not feeling well, so I'm kind of hiding today, and I've been listening to this. This is my first time at one of these meetings, and I've just been appalled at. I mean, I've been hearing about this for years. I've been a summer resident for 60 years, and I've lived here full time now for about 8 years. But I've come here every summer of my life until then, live in Woods Hole, and I just want to say that it's clear that Martha's Vineyard needs what the trucks bring and remove. It's not clear what time of day they need them, but it's also not clear that it's necessary for the trucks to go through Woods Hole. In fact, one of the respondents to that Vineyard survey said the steamships should strongly look into freight ferries from New Bedford to Martha's Vineyard. And, you know, I've been hearing that for decades. It's not happening. Why isn't it happening? It's unclear. You know, the 5:30 ferry provides a convenience for the Vineyard, is purportedly why it's happening. But Woods Hole is a small village and it's being overrun by trucks that create both air and noise pollution, traffic jams, danger to pedestrians. It's just a mess. And it's not just the 5:30 a.m. ferry from Woods Hole, although that is by far the worst for interrupting people's sleep. You know, there are times when the trucks and the traffic make it difficult to get into the village of Woods Hole, to the library, to just live your life. And it's very difficult. So I understand the need for the Vineyard to get supplies brought to them. But you also need to understand that Woods Hole is bearing the brunt of the problems. You know, this small village is really taking a huge hit for everybody on the Vineyard and the rest of the town of Falmouth. And I just want to live a safe life and not be exposed to all the noise and air pollution from the trucks. I do have one question. I would like you to repeat the email to send our comments to.
Sure, it's schedules, plural, @steamshipauthority.com.
Steamship Authority, one word. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really hope that you will start listening to the people and accepting that this situation can't go on any longer. It's been going on for what, 14, 15 years now, and it's not getting better. It's only getting worse, and it's aggravating the people to the point where I don't even want to deal with the steamship. I may not visit the vineyard because the steamship is such a nasty, unempathetic and unlistening organization. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. All right, see, person named Joy is next, and then we'll have you, we'll go back to Mary. Joy, are you there?
Here we go.
We can hear you, Joy. Go ahead, please.
Okay, I live in West Tisbury. I've been coming to meetings a lot to support our neighbors in Woods Hole. I have come to many meetings about the terminal. I also go to many Steamship Authority meetings to talk about the mismanagement of the Steamship Authority. I've been listening carefully to the concerns of my neighbors here today. And I once spoke to Jim Malkin about that 5:30 boat, and his answer was that there was always a train, so there's always been noise. So what it became was, I can justify whatever is. I went to a public meeting that Jim Malkin had, and it was a lot of apologies for what is. And in my professional life, I, for a time, worked a lot on national surveys. That's a very difficult thing to do. The wording of each question has to be vetted so you understand how someone's interpreting it. To just throw out a random, I don't know what, and call that some kind of science is insulting. As I listened to people in Woods Hole talking today, I felt as though we're not, I often go to these meetings and say, you're in a public service. This is not a bottom line business. This is not all about how much do we earn or what the profit is. It's about the service. But I now see, listening today, that you're not in service. You're an occupying company. You're occupying Woods Hole. You've taken over a slip that you promised wasn't going to be used all the time. You've taken over land. You've taken over the roads. You've taken over people's lives. You've taken over how much they can sleep and whether they're allowed to have noise. You've taken over whether they're allowed to have a little village that they design, that they run, that they manage. You're an occupying force. And we're going to have to change that. We are going to have to stand up and change that. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. Okay, so we have Mary, and it looks like Judy Laster has her hand raised again. So let's go to Mary.
I'll be very brief.
Sure, go ahead,
I
Mary.
forgot to, I've already had a chance to speak. I forgot to mention one thing, or children. As you all have taken over and as these roads have become so dangerously congested, I have 5 grandchildren that will be using the bike path this summer. 5. And I am one of many that will be using that in their children. They're not just an adult who should be able to look in all different directions. If this continues and somebody dies because there is not proper safeguards as you're coming from the bike path onto Railroad Ave near Luscombe, the responsibility falls on the Steamship Authority for a failure to provide adequate safeguards for the use of that bike path, which you must do. There is also all the children that go to that science school. In the summer, Woods Hole has a large number of children that are in the ages anywhere from 5 to 15 that are attending programs within that town. And this traffic congestion on Crane Street, on Railroad, on Cowdrey, which used to have a sidewalk, don't know what happened to that, and on Luscombe are becoming really very dangerous because people get frustrated and they make bad choices, putting aside the bus drivers who choose to drive in lanes that they are not allowed. I work or spend time volunteering at the library. I see people coming out. I am outside at the book sale. I see people coming off that boat and trying to go in. And the two worst categories of drivers that when they get off those boats, they are ready to go, are the truck drivers and the motorcyclists. Those two groups are the most irresponsible, leaving the steamship, the ferry docks. And all I can say is y'all really need to be thinking about all the children that use Woods Hole and the programs at the library, at the School of Science, and generally within the town. Because adequate planning has not been done. And if somebody is hurt, the responsibility falls on the Steamship Authority because they've made the place so dangerous. So that's all I wanted to add. And I thank you for letting me come back in. Thank you.
Sure, Mary, thank you. Ms. Laster is here, and then I don't see anyone else's hand. Well, actually, then I see Nat just put up his hand again.
I think he was gonna wrap up.
All right, so Ms. Laster, you're up.
Yep. Okay, thank you. I just have a few requests for information that I'd like to add to my prior request and one comment. So apparently last weekend was Memorial Day weekend. As everyone has noted, the traffic backups were unbelievable, but they were totally predictable. They seem worse than ever. They started earlier than ever, but part of it is because, and I don't know because I don't go on the steamship property, it takes, for whatever reason, a very long time for people to get through your system into your property. And so people are sitting there. They clearly don't know what to do. They clearly have not been provided with any adequate information. But most of all, you clearly have not created any traffic contingency plans, or maybe you have, but it seems like you haven't. Somebody said that Allison was out there in a green vest directing traffic, trying to bring order from chaos. Well, that to me indicates a complete failure on your part. Lack of adequate planning. This situation was completely foreseen. You know the traffic problems you have on your own property. What are the traffic contingency plans that you have for the entire summer? Please make those available. If you don't have any, take some of the $2 million that you're getting from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, hire a traffic planner and have them start next week and create a plan for the summer, because this is completely unacceptable. It affects all the businesses in Woods Hole. It affects the people along Woods Hole Road. It affects people in Falmouth. And it is also affecting people from the Vineyard. I talk to people who live there all the time. And for them, having to get on and off the island, especially with a car, not just in the summer, is completely stressful. It costs hundreds of dollars. Why are things so expensive now? What financial problems is the steamship happening? I would like to see your bond analysis, whether or not you're having financial difficulties. I don't really know what your finances look like. Are your bonds underwater? How much do you pay again for lobbyists, both at the state and federal level? Why did you need millions of dollars from the state budget when you're supposedly an authority designed to have your own revenue source? What is it that you need from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that you can't cover for from your own expenses? And if this is a problem, if you're going to need more and more money from the Commonwealth just for your operational issues, then you should become a complete entity of the Commonwealth, and you should recommend that you dissolve and that you become an organization that is accountable, that lives within the legal limits, and that it has people who know how to do what you're doing. You know, somebody suggested creating a competition for high school students. There are people in this community who if you asked, they would be more than willing, I would imagine, to help you create a traffic contingency plan and do scenario planning with you. That, if you were even to say, we need help, please, people, help us, that would also indicate that you're listening to what people are saying. Everybody, nobody has said here on this Zoom today that you guys are doing a good job. And it's not because we all want to be here wasting our afternoon. I have a lot of things to do. I'm sure other people do too. But because the fact that you're not doing a good job is impacting our lives, and you have no right to do it that way. So when you read the transcript, please talk among yourselves. I don't know anything about your board. I don't understand why they approve what you do. Maybe they don't get all the information, but you know, we would love to actually invite your board to have a meeting in Woods Hole where people would speak, where people would respond, where people would speak honestly. And, you know, I think part of the issue is it's easy to hide behind a camera. Just even the way this meeting is set up is an insult. You know, you can see us, we can't really see what's going on. We should have all the people, you know how to set up Zoom so you can see everybody else. This does not create an atmosphere where there's any confidence that we're doing anything else than wasting our time. Like I said before, I really want you to prove me wrong. I want you to prove us all wrong. If you change, that would be amazing. If you change, we will be your best advocates, but it's really up to you. So I would suggest change, and change tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Wrap up, Nat.
So Nat, have your hand raised. And I don't see any other hands, so I think you're gonna wrap it up, so. You there, Nat? I think you're still muted, Nat.
Yeah, no, we can't hear you.
We see a photograph, but looks like the PowerPoint slide.
Okay, I think we're in business.
There
So
you are.
we did get a
Okay,
look
go.
at the Aquina the other day, and we can read about the specs on your website. You've purchased the Aquina along with two other converted vessels, the offshore supply vessels, and are putting them now in the schedule. I see next year you have 14 trips, 7 round trips planned between Woods Hole and the Vineyard. And you know, the math here is, to me, is not hard. You've got a new freight vessel carrying 25% more freight trucks or cars, and you're therefore going to have a increase in capacity. And so the argument last year, and I read this in your section 15A report last year, to reiterate the authority's position on scheduling trips between the Woods Hole and the Vineyard, and so on. The authority has not substantively modified its operating schedules, nor has it increased its vessels carrying capacity. Well, that was last year. This year, you are increasing your vessels capacity, at least for the Aquina by 25%. Again, that's 14 runs. To me, this is the equivalent of 3.5 Sankaty-sized new capacity that you will have. Why you couldn't provide some relief at 5:30 with all this new capacity is really a big question, is an open question for me. And then just a couple other, again, actually, I've been impressed by you're getting up to as many as 6 lanes of regular vehicles. But I've definitely seen 10 semis on that was on the Barnstable, but I assume it's going to be the same on the Aquina. Septic. So everyone's addressed that trade survey, but I did want to point out that survey said nothing. There wasn't a single comment in all the comments about the 530 freight from the Vineyard. No one even spoke about it. To me, that was not, not a survey that, not a call for support for a 530 boat from the Vineyard. And I'll just point out that the Oak Bluffs and Tisbury Select Board letters in last year's report also did not mention the 5:30 a.m. from the Vineyard. To me, for you to insist on this, and you've really maxed out the 5:30 from the Vineyard, for that to run 365 days of the year is it's very hard to understand. You happened not to run it this past January and February for a few weeks when you thought you had construction construction planned. In the end, it didn't happen in Vineyard Haven. I did not. So there was no 5:30 freight running at 5:30 from the Vineyard. I did not hear an uproar of criticism or complaints or inadequacy issues of inadequacy on the Vineyard. So, and we make this point every year, but I do hope you can take this to heart. Section 6 of the Steamships Enabling Act talks about the exercise of the powers granted by this act will be in all respects for the benefit of the people of the Commonwealth and for the improvement of their health and living conditions. Notice it says the benefit of the people of the Commonwealth, not the people of the Vineyard, not the people of Nantucket. It's of the Commonwealth. Really, it's a very narrow interpretation, only to service to think in terms of serving the vineyards in not all of your port communities. So to conclude, the Steamship Authority's proposed 5:30 a.m. scheduling of freight trucks and the burden those trucks represent, and I'm speaking here of the pre-dawn disruption of Woods Hole and Falmouth households in our neighborhoods on a daily basis, the associated sleep deprivation, once described by a Vineyard Haven resident as a form of PTSD, is in direct conflict with the basic requirement of Section 6 of the Steamship Authorities Enabling Act. This concerns the people of the Commonwealth. With 5:30 a.m. truck scheduling, the Steamship Authority is not acting in all respects for the benefit of all people of the Commonwealth. If the Steamship Authority needs to continue to expand the amount of freight it carries to the Vineyard, it should do that through off-Cape ports. Woods Hole Terminal is full. You've been expanding your operations in Woods Hole at the expense of our residential neighborhoods and residents in general. An off-Cape port, such as New Bedford, does not have the density of residential neighborhoods. Again, in the case of New Bedford, between the port and in 195. We've already seen this summer that the Steamship Authority has expanded beyond its means at Woods Hole Terminal. It's time that the Steamship Authority stop denying this reality and take meaningful steps to expand its freight operations elsewhere.
Okay, thank you, Nat.
Right.
I don't see any other hands raised. So with that, I appreciate everyone's participation today. And again, if people have or want to submit written comments to us, please send it to schedules@steamshipauthority.com and we'll take those under advisement and put them and address them in the report. And I don't see anything else to here this afternoon, so I thank everyone for their time. And with that, we'll conclude the hearing.